What's up, guys? Jesse with Nat Naps here, and today we're going to be talking about the top talent outside of the UFC. Recently, the UFC's been doing what, in my estimation, are some pretty poor decisions when it comes to releases. They've released a lot of top guys. They've thinned out heavyweight to the point where there's pretty much no one left. If you look at the top 15 heavyweights, it's kind of ridiculous who's still there. They recently released Woodley. They recently released Yoel Romero, Junior Dos Santos, Fabricio Verdum, who else? Rumble Johnson. There's a lot of top guys that they've been just kind of letting go. And honestly, to be fair, I don't even understand when they release any former champion. If that guy wants to re-sign, I think they should re-sign him. And it's not even just because they were champion. I think, it is, but it's not like a for them thing, like they earned it. It's more for a marketing perspective. Like, if you got these new guys coming in and you have this champion sitting around that they can beat up on, former champion, it looks good on the next guy's resume coming up. So I don't understand why they don't keep them around longer for that. But I guess it also depends on how many losses they have. Like, once they get to a certain point, obviously you got to kind of suggest retirement to them, which can be hard to a lot of these guys. But like, a lot of these guys were clearly top guys when they were released. And Ryan Bader, Phil Davis in the past, John Fitch in the past. It's not the first time they've made these kind of weird decisions, and it's kind of left them with a lot of these guys end up making it back to the UFC. Verdum made it back to the UFC and won the title before, so maybe he'll make it back again after, the PFL tournament. Maybe he'll come back. But Demetrius Johnson's another really, really good fighter they should have never released. But it kind of leaves us wondering, like, who is the top talent outside the UFC right now? And at heavyweight, I think they've got most of the top talent other than, JDS and Verdum. Most the top guys other than those two have recently retired. There's been a lot of heavyweight champions, former heavyweight champions that have retired recently. So, other than Verdum and JDS, they pretty much have all the top guys. Like, I don't think Ryan Bader would be able to compete at heavyweight in the UFC. He was a good light heavyweight, but I don't think he'd be able to compete at heavyweight. As for light heavyweights, Phil Davis, they never should have let go. Ryan Bader, they never should have let go. Vadim Nemkov, I think, one of the best light heavyweights in the world today. I think they honestly, Phil Davis and Ryan Bader, I bet you they really regret letting go of those guys, because, those guys went on to have great careers, especially Ryan Bader, 2-division champion in, Bellator. Davis has only lost to, outside of the UFC, to Bader and Nemkov. And inside the UFC, only lost to Bader, Johnson, and Rashad Evans. So, just an amazing fighter. I don't really understand why they ever got rid of those guys. Bellator middleweight, I'd say, is a little bit less thick. They do have Gegard Mousasi. Rory McDonald fights at middleweight sometimes. Tried to become a 2-division champion. Didn't work out so well for him. But for the most part, I'd say the UFC is a much deeper 185 than Bellator. Welterweight, again, other than Rory and Douglas Lima, they don't really have much in the depth at welterweight, not nearly compared to the UFC. The UFC's welterweight division is very, very stacked. Although if they could pick up Woodley, that'd be a good one for them. Lightweight, they have a great lightweight division. Not so much anymore. I mean, the UFC picked off Alvarez and Chandler, and then Alvarez left, and I think he's in the PFL now. But Patricio Freire, very good. 155, 145-pound champion. Honestly, one of the best fighters to ever fight outside the UFC. I really wish that the UFC would sign him already. Just an amazing fighter, really. Like, there's a lot of top talent outside the UFC, and again, him at 45 as well. Top guy. Yeah, bantamweight. They got Sergio Pettis, Horiguchi. I think Horiguchi's in. Oh, he's in Risen now. Yeah. Yeah, he just had a one-off fight in Bellator, and then vacated the title. And now he's the Risen bantamweight champion. Be really nice to see Horiguchi back in the UFC. You know, he was so close to the UFC flyweight title. He got submitted by Johnson, but and yeah, he was another good guy that I don't understand why he left. When he left, he was on a 3-fight winning streak, fought for the UFC title. I'm guessing Risen offered him a fuckload of money because he's got to be huge in Japan. So. Who else is a really good fighter outside the UFC? Oh yeah, we just went over him, Sergio Pettis. Another top fighter. Anthony's little brother. Obviously decided he didn't, want to fight in the UFC more. Again, another guy coming off a win. When he left, and only lost to top guys. Lost to Henry Cejudo, Jose Formiga, who was the top 125-pounder before the UFC out of the division. Yeah. Good fighter. In terms of women's 45, they have Cyborg, but she'll never be back in the UFC just because Dana hates her. Julia Budd's pretty good too. Women's flyweight, I don't think they're quite as thick. Velasquez is a pretty good fighter, but I don't view her on the same level as like a, she's not, I wouldn't put her on the same level as a Valentina Shevchenko. Maybe she'll go on to be that, but as of right now, I don't think so. She's doing good, but she just hasn't faced the same level of competition, like nearly the same level. She's only had 3 girls that you could even consider like top level fighters. So even though she's 11-0, still kind of new. And then over in ONE FC, you've got a lot of really good fighters too. Brandon Vera, their heavyweight division seems to be a lot weaker. Brandon Vera was able to win the heavyweight title. Was a decent mid-level UFC fighter, but never really a top fighter. And I don't know if he'll be able to keep that because the guy, Ong Len Nasong, I think is how you pronounce his name. He recently beat Barra for the light heavyweight championship. So, and he's a middleweight champion. So that'll be really interesting. This guy looks like he could be really good. Lost to Costa Philippou. Yeah, it's hard to say because their heavyweight division is just so thin. And then Rene de Ridder, Dutch mixed martial artist, middleweight division of ONE FC, which is European Jiu-Jitsu silver medalist, 14-0. Okay, that'll be interesting. He could be good. It'd be interesting to see how he ends up. Yeah, he's the dual champion right now. This Ong Lin Song guy and Rene de Ridder both seem like they're very good. Yeah, their middleweight division is not nearly as thick, or welterweight, I should say, which is actually their middleweight division because they have everything up weight class. $170. They got Christian Lee. Featherweight, which is 55. They don't really have. They don't really have much in the, like, ONE FC doesn't have much in the way of talent above 145 pounds, but then like below 145, they've got such a stacked, like, Bibiano Fernandez. I want to see him in the UFC so bad. He's, uh, you know, dude's just been tearing it up since 2011. Only lost to Kevin Belingon once, and he's fought him 4 times. He beat him by submission, lost by split decision, won by a DQ, and then won by submission. So he's 3-1 against him. Adriano Moraes, 3-time champion, just only ever lost in the title from the looks of it. No, lost twice in the title and lost once before that. Just very impressive. Strawweight. I would actually I really want them to add a strawweight in the UFC, like 115 pounds for men. I think it would be really interesting. Yeah, I don't know if, like, this Moraes guy, though, he was able to beat DJ, and that fight with DJ was pretty one-sided. Although, DJ usually fights at 25. That was a 35 fight. And they say they don't let guys cut weight over there, but that is bullshit. Like, did you see the size difference on that guy? That guy was 100% cutting weight. I think what they mean is they don't let Westerners cut weight over there. That's the thing that's always been kind of super sus about Eastern martial arts, is they always have these like weird rules that you have to follow, and a lot of the notorious for fight fixing and double standards and shit like that. And a lot of them are able to win titles over there, but then when they come to the West, very few of them hold up. Like Horiguchi's probably the only guy I can think of that was a top level guy in Eastern and Western organizations. Sakuraba is another one. He won a couple different titles in Japan, and then won the UFC Japan tournament as well. But yeah, for some reason there seems to be a lot of bullshit in Eastern martial arts. And yeah, so I thought that was kind of interesting, because they always talk about how one doesn't let fighters really cut weight, but then you clearly saw the size difference between Moraes and Demetrius Johnson, and it was interesting. Moraes looked like a true bantamweight. Like, he looked like he was the size of Cruz. Apparently he has fought a flyweight before, but I think when they say that, they mean ONE FC flyweight, not a true flyweight, like Western flyweight. Yeah, they do, because it says his Brazilian completes in the flyweight division of ONE FC. He's current flyweight champion, which is literally a bantamweight champion. Yeah, either way, very good fighter. In some ways, kind of reminded me of the Dominic Cruz DJ fight, although I'd say Moraes has more power. But yeah, it'd be really interesting. I want to see a lot of these guys fight in the UFC. I know a lot of people wouldn't like it, but I think one of the best things that could happen is if the UFC bought ONE FC or bought Bellator. PFL just start buying up all these organizations. Women's strawweight, which is their 115 pounds or 125 pounds. Which is actually, they should be 115 pounders. Some of them, I guess. Some of them are actually. And that's the thing, it's kind of sus, right? Like, you see the Demetrius Johnson picture, it's like, Jesus Christ. Like, the size difference between the two of them. But the UFC is also picking up a lot of new talent. Guy Como Lemos, new heavyweight they picked up. Very good prospect, 5-0 record. Melissa Gatto, a bantamweight they picked up, 6-0 record, very interesting. Orion Kosuke, welterweight, 7-0 record. Alyaskov Kizriev, middleweight, 13-0 record from Russia. Danielle Wolf, I think she's a silver medalist. No, gold medalist, U.S. national Golden Gloves boxing champion. 1-0 record so far. Just got signed. Who else have they signed recently? Oh, Natan Levy, featherweight, 6-0. Issy Fatiku, 6-0. Middleweight. Oh, I guess they got Chris Barnett. That would be interesting. I remember watching him fight. Who did he fight when he did? He was the guy that tried the super kick, wasn't it? Like when the heavyweight tried the super kick, but. Yeah, who else suspended? Goddamn. Rafael Pascal. Has he even fought yet in the UFC? Yeah, 3 times, okay. Dude, you've been in the UFC 2 years, you've had 3 fights, you've had 2 fucking positive tests. Dihydrotestosterone. And a diuretic. Why are you taking a diuretic? You're a heavyweight. Oh, you're a heavyweight that has to cut weight. Let me Google this guy. How big is he? Not even, like, he's big, but he's, like, fat. Like, dude, just get in shape. Who's he fought? He beat Jeff Hughes, who's never won a UFC fight. I mean, what happened to Todd Duffy? Oh, I remember that. That was such horseshit, man. Oh, Duffy's such a disappointment. Like, not him personally, just his career and, like, the unfortunate shit that happened around it. Yeah, so he is coming back. Okay, that'll be interesting to see Duffy come back. But yeah, I think the UFC's in a weird situation right now because they're letting a lot of the top talent go. I think there's a couple of reasons for that. One is some of these guys are getting older, like Romero. So Romero's probably never going to make a title run. But then again, I think they should have held on to him. It'd probably be a big start anyway. I think another thing is Romero kept missing weight. That definitely hurt him. You know, you can miss weight, or you can lose fights, but you can't do both. Even if you're a fan favorite, you know, if you're a fan favorite, but you're losing fights and missing weights, people aren't going to be happy. Yeah, who else? Yeah, I'm trying to think. Who are some top fighters that are outside the UFC right now? We already went over a lot of the ONE FC guys. Bellator guys. I'm not too familiar with the European circuit or the Asian circuit, unfortunately. Like, I guess ONE FC is technically the Asian circuit, but more the small local circuits. I don't know many of the up-and-coming talented. Paddy Pimblett out of Europe, though, he's definitely a hyped prospect. I'm high on him. Who else? I don't know about other good prospects, but Kayla Harrison in PFL, Clarissa Shields is gonna be fighting soon. That'll honestly be the really interesting thing is over the next couple of years, how much top talent the UFC is able to pull from women's combat sports and from women's sports in general, for two reasons. One, the money, right? There's no other female sport where you make as much money as MMA. Two is the respect. There's no other female sport where they're respected as much as the men. Even a lot of other combat sports, they're not really, right? Like, no one cares about female wrestlers, really. I'd say jiu-jitsu is probably the closest where women get the most respect. But like, boxing really doesn't give it to them, Holly Holm wasn't really that famous until she became a UFC world champion, even though she was arguably a much better boxer than she was a UFC fighter. She was a multiple-time world boxing champion, arguably one of the top 5 boxers of all time for women. She's not in that discussion in MMA, but she's still more famous for her work in MMA. Partly because she knocked out Ronda Rousey, but also partly just because women's MMA, the fighters are viewed nowadays almost at like on equal ground to the men, especially the champions. Although there's like some dudes who will never give them respect, I think on average it's definitely more respected than than the WNBA, and I think there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one is I think the weight classes. So MMA fans are already used to dividing men by size and how good you are for size. So dividing women the same way doesn't seem abnormal, and they're able to rationalize the fact that, yeah, this girl could never beat a guy, but she's still the best at what she does. She's still the best in her division. So I think part of it is the weight classes that allows the division to be taken more seriously. And two, I think it's partly an insecurity thing, right? Like, if you're in a lot of these other sports, this isn't a fully thought out idea, but if you're in a lot of these other sports, and a woman outperforms you, or I don't even know if outperforms is the best word for it. If you're in, like, with a lot of other sports, it's there's kind of this faking of, like, it's simulated combat, simulated hunting, whatever it is, depending on the sport, right? And the difference is with real combat, there's like real security, I guess you could say. So maybe that's part of it. But then again, that doesn't really make sense at the same time, because also a lot of the fans don't train. A lot of them do, but a lot of them don't. Definitely most of the hardcores train. Like everyone I know that is like watches every UFC fight, and like most of the Bellator and the PFL and all that shit, it's mostly fighters, or at least guys who casually train, right? It's very rarely people that have no involvement in martial arts whatsoever, right? Even if it's usually guys who either do one martial art or do mixed martial arts. But either way, I've kind of got off topic here, just gone on ranting, so we'll end this now and move on to some other stuff.